Monday, everybody. Monday morning. Welcome aboard, all, and especially Razorback fans. I think that's who are continue to tune into these shows when we talk Arkansas Razorbacks men's basketball. I'm your host, Kevin McPherson. It's HogvilleNET YouTube Live. We're off in a new week. We're out in July now. We've moved past June, obviously. Did that last week. It's those dog days of summer. There's still plenty to talk about with basketball, especially recruiting. Not as much to talk about. We'll have more source information for you hopefully later this week about what's going on in the limited practices, because we've gotten really, no highlights, no video highlights, from the team, from its social media platforms to get a glimpse at what's going on. So hopefully we'll have more there. Obviously, we continue to drill down on recruiting, finalizing and finishing out the schedule. And as I always like to remind you, there's still a roster spot open for Arkansas should John Calipari and his coaching staff choose to fill that, and there's more than one way to do it. We went through all that, so we will talk recruiting in terms of players that might still be available for Arkansas to choose from for this second roster under Calipari at Arkansas. Most of it have been under the spotlight, excuse me, of the FIBA U19 World Cup play that just wrapped up yesterday on Sunday in Switzerland. Arkansas's coaching staff had a present there. We told you, over a week ago that Chuck Martin, assistant coach, would be out for the Razorbacks there. We've brought up 13 international names in addition to the 4 class of 2026 players that Arkansas is recruiting. We brought up 13 international players that in one way or another would fit needs, could slot into 2025, most of them anyway. We've got an extra name today, a 14th name we're going to mention, but we're going to go over some of the key guys that I still see as maybe the most, not only continue to play well and raise their profile as potential high major Division I players next year, but could fit in and help Arkansas. And so we're going to go down that road here. I think the first thing we're going to do is kind of what's been at the top of kind of what's on everybody's mind right now in terms of class of 2026. When you look at it on the national landscape, top 5 rated, ESPN has this player ranked number 4 overall, a 4-star, 6'3", 6'4" guard, an explosive scorer, arguably the most gifted offensive player, if you just look at it from that standpoint, in the 2026 class, which is a good one. I won't say that it's as loaded as 25, but it's really good. Jason Crowe Jr., who is a Hog target. He's a player that Arkansas has recruited, has pursued. But at what level? Remember, I keep saying Arkansas cast a pretty sizable net on basically top 20, top 25 as players, 15 to 16 names, maybe a little more than that when we really, stretch it out a little bit. But out of that group, we know, total of 3 or 4, and they've already got one off the board in J.J. Andrews. Well, Jason Crowe Jr. profiles as one of the top guards in the country, and we know that's right down, John Calipari's alley, especially lately when you start looking at his high school guard recruiting. Really hasn't expanded that since he's been at Arkansas to bring in a frontline player yet. That may change in this next high school recruiting cycle, 2026. We know Arkansas is in on several. But Jason Crowe Jr. is one that, Arkansas on some level has actively recruited. And he, one of the most interesting recruiting stories for a player of his caliber, you're used to players that are 5 stars, top 10, top 15, maybe dragging things out a little bit. J.J. Andrews getting his done in May and now ranked 12th in ESPN, a 5-star, 13th at 247 Sports, is the highest rated committed player. Well, that's about to change because Jason Crowe Jr. is going to announce on his birthday. We've talked about this already some, which is July 18th. So less than 2 weeks away. That's I think a Friday, and it's on his birthday. So Friday of next week. Good morning, Kevin. There's some other comments, but it's so fuzzy on here. I can't even read them today. And I've been dealing with a little bit of blurred vision the last few days. Anyway, on top of what already are some not pristine eyesight situations. But Jason Crowe Jr. is going to make that announcement, and you say, well, what's the big deal? Well, remember Darius Acuff Jr. committed to Arkansas a year ago in July. or at the end of the month after Nike Peach Jam had wrapped up. But he had also taken official visits, and his official visit to Arkansas was in May, a couple of months before that, and he'd taken visits prior to that. Jason Crowe Jr. has not taken an official visit, and if he has, he's done it under secrecy. He's been on campuses in unofficial capacities. He's Inglewood, California guard, and he's been on campus at USC, UCLA, probably some other places. But it's been really quiet in terms of whose campus has he been on lately, who's really in the lead here. The last time we were on, we brought you a little intel, told you that I spoke with a high major head coach in college basketball who told me that he didn't think it was Kentucky. That keep an eye on Texas was one of those, and there was a mystery school that some of the other coaches and programs were trying to figure out who it was. Well, Joe Tipton over the weekend with On3 Sports, I guess Rivals / On3 now, came out and said, put an article out saying that Missouri has kind of emerged as a front runner or a team to got a lot of momentum, something of that nature. I'm paraphrasing. Mentioned Texas. Kentucky's been thought to be in the mix and may still be in the mix. I told you what one source says, and it's a high major coach. Doesn't mean that they're correct. Head coach that said, they didn't think Kentucky was getting him. But who knows? But the last time, what's interesting is we just mentioned that J.J. Andrews is the highest committed player, highest rated player committed to a program at 12th ranked by ESPN. And that Crowe can upset the apple cart again. He's ranked 4th. But if you looked at J.J. Andrews' recruitment, it came down to Arkansas, Missouri, and LSU. And in the final hours, Missouri made a push in NIL and had their staff or people in that camp on that end very confident that they were going to get him and make that happen. There may have been a period of time where Missouri was the front runner there. And Calipari in the last 3 weeks, I was told by as reliable sources as it gets, that made the difference and really closed the deal on J.J. Andrews and kept him home. Well, I just find it interesting that, once again, it's Missouri, because if you tell me that a player hasn't taken official visits, yet they're ready to make a commitment announcement, you're probably in some way telling me that this is about the NIL person. There's strong enough, there's at least one strong enough offer, maybe more, to go ahead and get it done, not ask, do this, commit now, ask questions later, take visits later. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's a little bit of speculation on that part of it. But again, is Dennis Gates and his group over at Missouri throwing around NIL money that they held back and got to save on J.J. Andrews? One of those things, is it? I mean, that's one thing that comes to mind. If that's true, I've had another source tell me that not directly involved with him, but I guess my source had a source who's directly involved with his camp, whoever else is helping the young man make his decision, and said that that he's known for weeks where he wants to go. So it may not be something where there's really a horse race here at the end and someone's in the lead or this and that, in terms of the idea that maybe there's still some wiggle room for other teams to emerge or to, leapfrog. Maybe it's something that's already been decided. But anytime it's NIL and anytime you haven't even taken visits, again, I go back to an example of a guy that was on Arkansas's campus, Brandon Garrison, when Calipari first got here and committed to Kentucky, sat on scene on an NIL offer that exceeded everything else he had. He hadn't been on campus yet. So that's the kind of thing that can move a player. It's true that portal recruiting, which is what Brandon Garrison was, and a 5-star coming out of high school is different. High school recruiting, there's a much longer courtship. But again, when there's NIL involved, all bets are off in terms of what seems like the traditional thing, like take your visits, those kind of things. So things to keep an eye on. Do I think Arkansas is out of it? Well, I don't know enough. I don't have enough source information in terms of these other options in terms of feeling solid about them to say Arkansas is not. But one thing I do know, John Calipari and Arkansas, they don't get into these back and forths with other teams. They set their valuation ranges. They're modest, I guess, compared to what some of these other teams are willing to do. They're really good. Arkansas has plenty of NIL money, so they're really good relative to the entire landscape. but all it takes are two or three teams that are willing to get wild and pony up, and we've seen that. We've seen it with Kentucky and some other schools, maybe North Carolina with some of the price tags we're hearing. So there's all kinds of stuff going on with this recruitment. And anytime someone fast tracks it like this, I'm fascinated by it because, again, the guy hadn't taken visits. So we'll see what happens. Do I completely rule Arkansas out right now? No. Does it seem like the longest of long shots? I don't even know if it's that much of a climb, but I would say it's a relative long shot until I hear something different. There's no noise in Arkansas's direction whatsoever. I think Arkansas has prioritized maybe some other backcourt players. When you're the fourth-rated player in the country, how could you do that? Well, Jordan Smith Jr., who just, by the way, we're going to talk about the Arkansas recruiting targets for Team USA and maybe international, maybe here in a little bit. And he just wrapped up defensive player of the entire FIBA U19 World Cup tournament, which is what we talk about. He's the best two-way player in the United States. I made that comment the last time I was on, and sure enough, he gets apparently the world at his age, because the best players in the world, 19 and under, were participating in this, and this dude locked up defensive player of the entire event when they announced their MVP, first and second all field teams, and then he was the defensive guy. That's a big deal. But again, and he's ranked third, Jordan Smith Jr., the 6'2" guard out of Virginia, in the ESPN rankings, obviously a 5-star. So to me, Arkansas's priorities might be pushed again. Out of 15 or 16 names, they're really going to only get 3 or 4. They've already got one in J.J. Andrews, so subtract him, maybe 2 or 3 more. And so, you can't bring in everybody. So I don't expect this to go Arkansas's way, but I also don't think this was Arkansas's number one priority in the backcourt. That's what I'm trying to get to. All right, 12 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. Before we jump into the FIBA stuff, and we've talked so much about it going back to last week, Friday and Saturday of the previous week. So, but that's how long the event was. Again, Arkansas had a coaching presence there. We brought you all kinds of player names. Again, we were at 13, and the international names, we're going to go to a 14th guy and then go back through the 4 with Team USA that matter. But before we do that, let's really give an update real quick on the Pro Hogs and Summer League, because the Las Vegas Summer League, which is the big one, is set to begin later this week on the 10th. We'll ramp up, and that's where you're going to see your Pro Hogs, because the early events, there are 2 of them, the Salt Lake City Classic, which is a 4-team field, and then the California Classic, also a 4-team field. You didn't have any Pro Hogs in there. It would have been a do-thero with the Lakers. They played in the California Classic and have been, and they'll play in the big one like everybody else. The Las Vegas Summer League again begins July 10th, but he's being held out over that knee, getting ramped up. They think he's going to be full go for training camp, a couple of months out, and then you roll into your preseason game. So they think he's going to be just fine. The 36th pick, the first ever 7-team trade, and a bunch of players all over going from one place to another, draft picks, cash considerations, and Thero ends up with the Lakers. Well, he's going to get a guaranteed deal. I'll be shocked if he doesn't have at least 2 years guaranteed with some good money there relative to what he can get as a rookie. But he should be just fine. But the names we're keeping an eye on: Jordan Walsh, going into year 3 with the Celtics. Look for him getting lots of run with the Celtics this summer on their Summer League team. Nellie Davis, who signed a Summer League deal with Orlando and the Magic, that's Anthony Black's team. AB going into year 3 will not be playing in Summer League. He doesn't need this platform. He's a regular in the rotation. But Nelly, we'll see how much he gets to play. We'll see what he's been able to do in the practice leading up to this to get the whatever coaching staff it is to either slot him in, as a reserve that's going to play just about every game, or if he's kind of on the outside looking in and just get some spot duty. We just don't know enough yet about Nelly's situation. But 2 veteran Hogs that are also on Summer League teams. Mason Jones, who's been a part of the Sacramento Kings as a 2-way player the last year, is back and will be in the Kings put out their roster, was announced for Summer League, I think, yesterday, and I retweeted it. But Mason Jones appears on that. So back with the Kings, at least for now. Remember, you're auditioning in the Summer League for all 30 teams. Doesn't matter necessarily which summer league team you're on. And then Stanley Moody, who was not listed on Milwaukee, that's who he was with the Bucks last year on a two-way deal. He was not listed on Milwaukee's roster for summer league, but I have a source telling me that he's been working out, ramping things up, working out in the Milwaukee Bucks facilities, and that he in fact expects to be added to the roster and play in summer league. That's what he's been told. So we'll see what happens. The last I checked, he wasn't on it, but that could change any moment because I think Stanley Moody plans on being. He thinks he's going to be in the works for the summer league again for the Bucks, which is good if that's the case. But these are guys that have been in the league for at least 3 years now. I think in Umade's case, Mason will be going into year 6. And I say league; they're mostly G League players, but they do get some opportunities in some NBA games. So that's the summer league update. 16 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Let's jump into it. Team USA got off to a slow start. It always seems to fall behind by 6, 7, 8 points early in some of these games, and then immediately, got to the end of the first quarter and was trailing by a point and got a bucket right before the end of the first quarter to go up a point. And Team USA ended up ballooning what was eventually a 9-point lead at halftime, pretty early in the third quarter, a double-digit lead that just swelled to 20, and then it was off to the races. They led by, if they didn't lead by 40, I know at one point they led by 38 points. But when the dust settled in the FIBA title game, Team USA capped a perfect 7-0 run through this event with a big win, big 30. I think it was like 30 points. I thought I wrote the final score down. I can't find it here. So I didn't memorize the final score, but I think it was 109-76. So, but simple math tells me that's a 33-point victory for Team USA. I think that's what it was, 109-76. And again, the guys that we talked about, the 2026 guys, it's a 12-player team. So you had, Morez Johnson, who will be a sophomore at Michigan after transferring after his freshman season in Illinois. He's the veteran on that team. And you've got multiple guys going into their freshman seasons in college basketball this coming season. So late starters in terms of getting on campus for their limited summer practice work, but they've been doing this. But then you've got the 4 guys in class of 2026 that Arkansas continues to recruit all 4 based on what the staff told me as they were going over and venturing over to evaluate games through the first part of the event. Arkansas did not have a presence there as far as I know for the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday games, which are your quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. They can watch all of that live like I did. But they did have a presence there before that. I think Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So 5 days they were there. But the same names I keep talking about kind of at the top. Jordan Smith Jr., if he didn't start every game, he started all but one. I think he started all of them. Like we just talked about him. He was the named defensive MVP of this event. But in the championship game, 10 points, made all of his field goals, 4-4 from the field, including 2 of 2 from 3. You like to see that because he started really poorly shooting from 3. We talked about you're not really paying attention to him statistically on the shooting and the scoring part of it, not necessarily unless it's just awful consistently. It's really everything he does in that two-way value, because even though he's great on defense, he also does a lot of good stuff offensively. He is a glue guy connector. I say that at both ends, and you just watch and you see this. And you've seen guys like that before him. But that perfect shooting did not come in garbage time. This game was still a close game when he did what he did. Early in the game, he got in transition and got a layup. He got a dunk off an underneath the basket inbound play where he did a really good job of just kind of, he worked his defender. It almost came to a 5-second count, but his defender peeled off just a little bit off of just a slight, I think, hesitation or shift in his body language, and then it freed him to get a catch. Defender tried to close on him. He went ahead and dunked anyway. That was early in the game. But it was still a competitive 2 or 3 possession game coming out of halftime, and he went nuts. He had a nice rundown of the ball in transition. The ball kind of should have led him to the basket, but it was a little errant. 2 defenders were around him. Instead of trying to force a shot like a lot of guys would because he was fairly close to the basket, he was kind of in that dunker spot at that point, he just turned and found a teammate crashing the lane, running, getting downhill, rim running, and dished the ball off for a dunk. I think it was Morez Johnson. And then right after that, he had what I think was in, if it wasn't back to back offensive possessions, they were spread out. They were maybe in 2 out of 3 consecutive possessions. He hit catch and shoot threes, one on the right wing, one in the left corner, and that lead ballooned at that point. It kind of ballooned from a 3 possession deal, and 18 points, getting close to 20. So he had a big hand in what really created that initial separation for the first time in that game for Team USA. So I can't speak enough about Jordan Smith Jr. I've made the comparisons to Calipari's, success with Cason Wallace, who was part of what Calipari was doing at Kentucky toward the end. His second to last team there, Wallace was a one and done, a really good player there. And we've seen what he's done in 2 years with the Oklahoma City Thunder. This player right here, Jordan Smith Jr., you want to give guys their own space and not say, well, he's just a clone. But my gosh, the similarities are so striking. Size-wise, I mean, Cason Wallace listed at 6'3", Jordan Smith Jr. at 6'2", but Jordan Smith Jr. has elite length, explosiveness. He gets up and down the court just about probably better than anybody I've seen in terms of flipping the. You've heard of flipping the field in football with a punt. He's got that kind of coverage to get down there. I mean, he gets from end to end on the court. He's just defensively, he's already in a place where you don't see that usually at players at this level. I say he's the best two-way player in the country. Now let's say he's the best two-way player in the world at his age, because the FIBA Cup just told him he was. It's just a menace to fit. The deflections, the challenges at the rim, the on-ball, the help situations. I mean, he seems to really understand how to dig in and do it. Good comments coming up. I think they're good. I can read every other word. I'm having extra blurry vision. I want to keep dwelling on that the last few days. We'll get on the other side of that hopefully here pretty soon. So outside of Jordan Smith Jr., the other guy that really impressed me too, out of these 26 guys, and there's 4, Tyron Stokes. He kind of started slow in this event, wasn't getting a whole lot of playing time early. There were some blowouts where he got some more run. He had a triple-double, which is kind of his trademark. There's a lot of triple-double games for him at the high school level, the spring and summer level on Nike EYBL, which is pretty significant given the level of competition. But to see, he did stick a double-double in this, and he started to get more playing time and have more of a role off the bench. And in this game, 10 points, 7 rebounds. And what I really liked about Tyron Stokes is when you looked at the lead that Germany jumped out to early, they were up 8 or 9, and Team USA started using its normal sub patterns. Tommy Lloyd, head coach, and you saw Stokes come in, and you saw Caleb Holt, the other 2026 guard who impressed out of the Atlanta area. They both came in and started immediately making plays and turning the tide for Team USA. And it was Stokes who hit a driving, determined layup. He just parted the sea on his own. He just willed his way to the basket for a layup to give Team USA back in front, a 1-point lead going to the second quarter. Caleb Holt, when he came in, hit a nice little drive to the paint, turnaround jumper. He ended up getting a steal in that sequence when Team USA was getting on a little run and got back in it and evened things up, and then eventually overtook Germany early. Just doing a little bit of everything. And I mentioned the shooting numbers for Jordan Smith Jr. Perfect 4-4 overall, 2 of 2 from 3 for his 10 points. But Stokes was 5 of 6 from the field for his 10 points. Caleb Holt was 4 of 5, all 2-pointers for his 8 points. He also had Holt 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and he had a couple of steals. Caleb Holt did. And what I think is interesting about him, the previous game in the semifinals win for Team USA, which was a blowout over New Zealand, he had a 20-point game. And he had 4 steals in that game. So Caleb Holt really turned on the offense and his opportunities. I think he and Jordan Smith Jr., outside of Mikel Brown Jr., who, by the way, didn't get MVP of this event, the incoming freshman for Louisville. We'll see him go head-to-head against Darius Acuff Jr. We've been talking about this whole event. We've been talking about it a little bit even before this event. just eyeballing that matchup coming up. We know Acuff was the number 1 rated point guard in the country. Mikael Brown Jr., the second highest rated point guard prospect in the country, and they're both top 10 rated 5-stars. And Mikael Brown Jr. really probably even elevated his profile even more with the performances, especially his 3-point shooting, his work in transition, his work as a facilitator. He's a tough bucket getter. I mean, I put out a list of my top 7 players for Team USA, because they go 12 deep, but I went with the top 7, what I saw, and I had him at number 1. And it was AJ DeBonsa, who's headed off to BYU, who got the MVP award from FIBA. But I put Mikael Brown as 1. I had DeBonsa 1A. I had 1B as Koa Pete, because Koa Pete was an enforcer. He was the Team USA's probably most consistent physical interior presence. I think had at least 1 double-double, maybe more than that. Typically scored in double figures in every game that mattered and was a force at both ends because of his physical presence. So I had them at 1B, and 1A and 1B, 1A and 1B. And then 4th, I had Jordan Smith Jr. I had Tyron Stokes 5th. I had Morris Johnson 6th. And I had Caleb Holt 7th. So I had 3 of these 2026 guys in the top group of performance consistently in a 7-0 run. You went 7-0 in this event. And it left out guys like Jasper Johnson. I mean, he did some good things, but who's been a freshman at Kentucky. But these other guys, I just watched all these games, and I've seen these players so many times in person. And these younger guards, and in Stokes' case, I guess a combo, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to call him, whatever his role is going to be at the next level, they were just, to me, better. Even a year younger, but still better. Just a better overall quality of player right now than what I see in Jasper Johnson. It's no knock on him just because he's going to Kentucky, because I just gave some flowers to Mikael Brown Jr., who's Arkansas' schedule next year in the ACC SEC Challenge in BWA. So there's that. All right. So those 3, Caleb Holt, Jordan Smith Jr., Tyron Stokes, Caleb Holt, Arkansas continues. They're all top 5-ish 5-stars. Tyron Stokes, number 1. JSJ, 3rd in ESPN's rankings. Holt, I think 5th or 6th. I'm not so sure. Holt shouldn't be a little higher because his defensive work was really impressive in addition to his offense. I thought he was solid at both ends. He played with physicality. He played with quickness. He played with athleticism. And he played with toughness. When he came in at crucial moments and some other games, the game against Canada was close throughout. Canada actually led in the 4th quarter. We talked about that in the quarterfinals, and I know Holt didn't score much in that game. I think he had a point, but he had 3 steals in that game. He was very active defensively in concert with Jordan Smith Jr. until all these guys got on the court. And then Brandon McCoy Jr., also class of 2026, 6'3" guard out of St. John Bosco in L.A., finished with 2 points in the win over. He was the guy that was sort of the low minute man on the totem pole. I think at least one game he didn't play in. That might have been against Germany, so we didn't see a lot of Brandon McCoy Jr. Still rated top 10 5-star in 2026 by ESPN in most of the services. Team USA beat Germany. We know that. Again, 109-76, I believe, was the final score. And we've been talking about the German forward that Arkansas's coaching staff, which I have confirmed has been recruiting him for years. We'll see, but he would fit perfectly. He's slotted 2025. He's 18 years old. He'll be 19 in December. 6'8", 230, sort of a 3-4 combo, really athletic, 7-foot wingspan, 38.5-inch vert, max vert. And he was a guy that didn't disappoint in this event. I just keep going back to it. You need depth at the 4 spot. You'd like to have someone that's efficient and can shoot some threes. He checks all these boxes. He doesn't have to come in and be a starting role guy. Does that mean that Arkansas's they've recruited him for years? Or how to what degree is that pursuit now, if at all? That's what I'm not sure about just yet. I just know that they've been on him for a while, and they had eyes on him in this event when they were there and watching him, on the live YouTube coverage through the weekend. But he had scored in double figures in every game except the finals. Kind of quiet there. 4 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds. He's a guy that every time I watch him in this event, I was impressed with him defensively. He's a good guy. He's the kind of guy that's going to run to the dunker spot. and get finishes around the basket, get it in transition, get it on putbacks. He'll step out. He's kind of the guy. He's kind of the fourth or fifth option on offense. If you watch it, he's the guy on the opposite side in the corner if the ball moves. So he's an opportunistic scorer, but he ended up averaging over 11, nearly 11 and a half points and over 5 rebounds per game in the entire event, 7 games. Germany was unbeaten until that team lost to Team USA in the finals. But Declan DeRue Jr. was one of the more impressive players consistently, not in terms of big numbers, but that's okay. Remember, Jordan Smith Jr. also wasn't putting up crazy numbers. It's not about his numbers. It's about the eye test and what he's doing for you that impacts winning at both ends. And DeRue's one of those guys. I mean, to me, he'd be an optimal guy. Does Arkansas, now that this event's over and it's under players, that are under 19, are they going to look still internationally at maybe some that are emerging out of this that'll come in and play college this upcoming season? Will they put their eyes back on older guys in the international waters, like an Egor Rizov, a year or two older that might be a good fit for that spot? Who knows? Who knows if it's a reclass candidate in 2026 and something emerges there. There's all kinds of stuff that Calipari in the past has shown, wise in his choice to hang out and not fill up a roster spot for the very reason something good might just fall in his lap. So we don't know. We can't say with certainty. Some of the other players that stood out, Amadou Sini with Cameroon, the 6'11" center. He had a big double-double again over weekend play, I believe on Sunday in one of the other games, because you had the championship game and then the third place game, which determined the bronze medal. But you had Amadou Sini, Seini, with Cameroon, had his second 24 rebound game in this event. Think about that. Second. He had 12 points, 24 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block in his team's game on Sunday. Yusuf Traore, the 6'10" combo forward. I'm trying to remember who he's with. I thought I wrote that down again. This was, again, final day. But he had a huge game in a win over Argentina. He's with Mali. I think he's with Mali. But Traore, 27 points, 11 and 18 from the field, 5 of 6 at the foul line, 12 rebounds. So he had a big double-double as well. 4 assists, 1 steal, and a block. Just a monster game for him. These are names we've talked about. The 3 players for Slovenia, which got a close margin win over New Zealand for that bronze medal. Slovenia, Vit Hrebar, who we mentioned, the 6'9" combo forward, who struggled early in the event and started putting together some of his best games at the end. Another really good game for him, 20 points, and he was 5 of 7 from 3. A couple of rebounds in there. Zach Smrekar, 6'7" forward, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists for Slovenia. And then Mark Pageon, 6'6" wing forward, 13 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. Keep an eye on Pageon. He's a guy I think that helped himself and may end up going ahead and doing the 2025 thing. We'll see if Arkansas has any interest in him. Those are some of the names we've already talked about. A player we haven't talked about yet who I think really helped themselves in this event for Serbia is Nikola Zepina, Dzepina. He averaged 16 and a half points and over nearly 5.5 rebounds. I think when you look at him as a 6'8", sort of a combo forward again, I think he's the kind of guy, I bring his name up because there are other players that helped themselves, but a lot of them were smaller guards. And I just don't think at this point you're trying to backfill the 15th spot with another guard. You could do that as a development piece and someone that gives you extra depth there. With the need being frontline depth, I lean more towards that. So I'm bringing up some of these names because they fit that. But we did talk about some guards early on, and some of that will be available. And you can go back. If you haven't checked out all the coverage going back to, I guess, June 28th, which was a week ago Saturday, it's when we really picked up steam and started talking about and dropping these names on each episode, different guys that could factor in potentially to what Arkansas might be looking at. All right, that's it. We gave you really in-depth FIBA coverage. Again, we dropped 14 international names. One of those we know Arkansas staff has recruited for years. I keep framing that and phrasing it. The 4 Team USA guys gave you a little insight on what to look for should upcoming year in the Las Vegas Summer League. Again, that's about a 10-day event. It'll start July 10th. And then the Jason Crowe Jr., we just keep an eye on it. But is Missouri the leader now? Is that the perceived leader? Is it Texas? Is it Kentucky? Is USC really still in it? Is Arkansas in it? Well, I guess we're going to find out July 18th. We hope to have more info before we get that far. I'm sure we'll talk about it again, maybe even tomorrow. If something important breaks today, we'll try to jump back on. If not, thanks for being here. We'll be back tomorrow, probably really early. It's Tuesday, so probably going really early or not at all, but I'm sure I'll be back on tomorrow. Until then, thanks for being here. Appreciate all of you. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon.